to...
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
What's your first name?
Brian.
Brian, yeah. I'm here with Brian. He's a Canadian citizen. His wife is Russian, and he's got extensive knowledge, insight of Ukraine, Russia. So, you know, our fundamental purpose at NCA is to raise awareness, to help people have the facts, to make better decisions. So let's hear from Brian and learn from him. So thanks, Brian, for sharing.
Oh, sure, no problem.
And you've been to Russia, Ukraine.
I've been there 35 times. I've been to Ukraine. I've been to Crimea. I've been to, you know, most of the affected areas down there. And, you know, it's not really much of an education unless you talk to the people down there. So I either know enough Russian or, you know, got my wife as a translator to help me out. And so, for example, the first you know, propagandized messaging that came into North America was about Crimea. And so I thought, well, gee, I'm over here. It's just a quick plane hop down to Simferopol, and I'll rent a car. We'll go around Crimea and we'll talk to people. And the nice thing about doing it at Christmas time is that all the people are there from the UK and different areas visiting their families. I've got lots of people to talk to. And first of all, you know, under occupation, they're under military. I never saw a military guy there, and I went everywhere to all the big populations. I never saw a single soldier. Even in a Russian base where the military base is, never saw a single guy. I never even saw a cop car. I never saw a cop or a cop car. I did get a speeding ticket there, and in Calgary that cost $145, but in Russia it's $12. So I paid it, and that was it. And I got it in the mail in Russia. But the amount of propagandized messaging that occurs in North America regarding Ukraine and Crimea and all that, it is the exact opposite of what's going on there. And everyone likes to discount the Nazi content there, but unfortunately it's the truth. These are all the guys that were shelling the Donbass, killing 14,000 people for 8 years. And they were funded by the U.S., they were funded by Canadians, trained by Canadians. And I think, you know, what's really unfortunate about all this, because it's such a pack of lies, is it unravels over time. And so what you're going to find about the U.S. and Canada's involvement here is that over time you're going to be on the wrong side of history. And I'm on one side of this war, and it's not Russia, and it's not Ukraine, and it's not the West. I'm on the side of no war. I'm on the side of peace. I am anti-war. And this war didn't need to happen, but it was propped up and funded by the West. And they are so hungry for war even yesterday. It's unbelievable. And they put out so much propaganda even during the war. It's hard to swallow. It's just so much. And of course it's debunked, but then they just move on to the next piece of propaganda. And it's already affected people emotionally. The first one, it's hard to, you know, jack that out of their minds. So, you know, the difference between knowing and not knowing is really going over there. Not really many people have the opportunity to travel over there, but I'm over there all the time. And so if I want to take a trip down there, it's not that, you know, like if I want to go into the Donbass, I can just fly down to Rostov-on-Don and go into the Donbass. It's real easy. And you can talk to people and find out the truth. And unfortunately, it's not reported. So most of propaganda is what they leave out. 80 to 85% of all propaganda is the information that's edited away from you.
But also the politicians too.
They're all involved. This is a mob. This is the last time I saw a mass formation psychological event like this politically. You know, I've studied the lead up to the Second World War in Nazi Germany. Most of the people in Germany were the silent majority, but they won't stand up because they're afraid to, because there's intimidation. So if you stand up and side with and say, look, we shouldn't be in this war and we shouldn't be doing it, you're almost the bad guy, like you would have been as a silent majority player in Russia in 1938. you're a bad person, and you'll have actions taken against you.
Yeah.
And of course, here we are in Canada, and anyone that seems to disagree with the government has their bank account frozen.
Yeah.
You know, we are engaging in totalitarianism, and I never thought I'd see it in Canada, and it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And now they got the Ministry of Truth in
Washington. Yeah.
and they're just
Yeah.
going to do that here as well. It's all
Yeah.
a test marketing campaign
Yes.
to teach us how to think and teach us what to say, and to cause us to self-edit it. So we're so afraid of government reaction and having our bank accounts frozen or anything, or not getting jobs in certain places, that you're going to self-edit and you're just not going to say anything. So you will become part of the silent majority and say nothing.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame because, first of all, you know, they keep opening the news with this unprovoked attack of Ukraine. It's the most provoked war of the last 40 years.
Yeah.
The United States, if you want to see some unprovoked wars, go find Libya. Go find Baghdad on a map where 1 million people died. Go find Syria. You'll get a big list of unprovoked wars, but you're not going to get one over there because it's pretty provoked. The last time Russia was flanked to the south with a good amount of Nazis, the last time they lost 26 million people. United States has never lost 50 million people come into their country and kill them. So they don't really have a lot of sensitivity towards this stuff. But the last time they were flanked in Ukraine by enemy forces, which are NATO, they're enemy forces. They're not a defensive group, they're an offensive group. They kill and bomb lots of people unprovoked. And they've done it in Sarajevo, they've done it in Libya. So, you know, it's an invading force. NATO is an invading force. And all they want them to do is stand back a little bit and not come all the way into Ukraine.
Yeah.
So, you know, people in Canada and the United States are being taught how to think. But fortunately, there's alternate uses or sources of information that you can tap into, and you get a different perspective.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. I'm just gonna comment. I'm looking at one of the comments. Fair enough, sir. We're not advocating communism here today. We know about Stalin.
I'm anti-communist.
Hold on a sec. Stalin was an absolute butcher, and we, you know, the gulags and all that. I know about that. We're not advocating that, but today's about the victory over Nazi Germany.
Yep.
And unfortunately, history's repeating itself. We're seeing it in Ukraine with the neo-Nazis, right?
Yep. Yep. They never denazified, unfortunately.
But I have to add this: when Russia defeated Hitler Nazi, that was under the Soviet Union, communism.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So,
that was.
Remember that.
And by the way, you know, I mean, these Nazi groups, I mean, I completely understand their hatred towards Soviet Russia. I completely understand
Stalin, right?
Stalinistic Russia. And you can even fast forward that a couple more leaders. I completely understand it. But the thing is, you know, you've got to take hatred and use it in a political and positive sense.
Yes.
Rather than a negative sense. And becoming a Nazi is a really negative, violent way to actuate hatred.
Yeah.
I think you should actuate hatred in politics and in doing good, you know, change for the better. And, but I do understand.
But these neo-Nazis in Ukraine, they have lineage.
Communist Stalinistic Russia is the worst atrocity pretty much to ever happen in there. And again, when it broke up, I was the happiest guy in the world.
Yeah.
So it reverts back to all the separate countries plus Russia. But you know, it's nobody here is a Russia Stalin fan or a communist or anyone. No. So in fact, the United States today, politically and fiscally, is far more communistic than Russia could be in a million years.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, Putin, like him or love him, he is, if you look at Russia as a corporation and you look at what he's done, he started out completely bankrupt, like the most bankrupt company.
Yes.
And as CEO, he's come up to the most profitable country in the world.
I know.
660 billion in foreign reserves, where Canada's got 4 times the GDP and 1/5 the reserves.
Yeah, and plus also Russia has almost no debt.
Russia has no debt, the lowest GDP to debt ratio. So the West looks at this, he says, this guy is going to be a powerhouse because he's even, selling more energy into China and different places.
Yeah.
We can't have this guy being successful.
Yeah, exactly.
We got to go in and grab these resources and kill him and try and maybe get a puppet guy like Zelensky.
Yeah.
Get a puppet goon in there. And like I say, Putin's got his bad points as well. But as a CEO of a large organization called Russia Inc., he has done the most amazing financial turnaround in world history.
Yeah, and look at the Western sanctions of the Russian central bank.
Yep.
Ruble for gas and
and they've stolen 280 billion of the reserves. They think, well, this is great. We can steal money. Well, if anyone had to be a thief, it was at the 30 trillion in debt that the United States is right now, and everybody. So, it's always poor guys stealing from rich. Rich people don't steal, go in and do second-story jobs on poor people's places.
Yeah, I'm just going to respond to this guy. Sir, just understand your history in World War II. It was the Soviet Union that defeated Nazi Germany. So that's why these people have the Soviet Union flag up. So we're not going to go there. We're not advocating Stalin or communism here. Russia right now is a nationalist. Probably, I would call it a free enterprise country, right?
Yeah, it's very free enterprise. Like we've got friends, and like a lot of people don't really have the right view of Russia. You can't get it unless you go there. So, for example, my wife went to engineering school. She's got friends that are now driving Range Rovers, and they have successful online businesses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I have a friend, that was a computer guy and really, really good program, probably a top 10 guy in Russia. When I knew him a long time, he was driving a Lada that you had to pull the window up. Now he's got a brand new Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah.
People are doing it by themselves. They're not friends of friends.
Yeah.
They're just basically adding value into the marketplace and doing pretty well.
Good.
In a free market.
Yes.
So, it's like anything, whether it's Canada or here, this place will treat you very poorly if you decide to do nothing. It'll also treat you very well if you decide to do something.
Yeah.
And so this is pretty much the same in Russia.
Yeah.
And, I live there a lot. I got my beefs about Russia and the bureaucratic state and all that. But I've also got my beefs in Canada. But I'm also going to say, and even when I have, when I'm in Russia, I've got Muslim relatives, I've got Jewish relatives, and I got Christian relatives, and we're all at the same picnic together. And if I ask them, if we go around the table and ask them, do you guys like Putin? I would say 50% are going to say, hey, it's time for him to go. And the other 50 said, no, I like him. It's like Canada. Do you like Trudeau?
Yeah.
Well, I hate Trudeau.
Yeah.
He's an idiot. And he's the worst prime minister we've ever had. Do I hate Trudeau more than somebody might hate Putin in Russia? Nah, he's in no competition with me. I hate Trudeau way worse.
Yeah. So, but understand that Putin, because of his war effort and also the way they battled the Western economic sanctions, his approval ratings are apparently over 80%.
Well, they're very good.
But I'm just going to respond to this guy's question. You say, why not just a Russian flag? I have to emphasize,
this is the flag they fought under.
This is the flag they fought under, but also it was the Soviet Union back then, and they defeated Nazi Germany.
Yep.
So this event is all about that. Understand that, sir? And let
the Soviet
this
Union,
flag right here they fought under, right?
No, that one there.
That one there,
the red one. So
that's
they got that up
right
only
there
because it's the flag they fought under.
Against Nazi Germany.
Against
so
Nazi
no one's
Germany.
advocating Stalin or communism.
26 million people dead.
Yeah, 26 million.
I'll give you a contrast. If you watch North American TV and all these war movies from, which I did, you'd think that all the dead guys in Europe were all Americans. 480,000 Americans died during Second World War. 26 million Russians died. 2/3 of all Russians killed in the war were killed inside the Soviet Union. 2/3.
Yeah.
2/3 of the fighting, 2/3 of the killing. It was a bloodbath. Second, you've got to understand, Nazis weren't just Jew killers. Their number one hit list was not Jews, even though they did quite a job on them. Their number one hit was Slavic Russians.
Wow.
They had posters.
Wow.
They did posters up making Slavic Russians look like rats. so that
Oh, they did, eh?
yeah, to precondition them to slaughtering them. And so, you know, it's like I say, I've studied this. I've studied it
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of hours of study because I'm very, very interested in this. And I got more interested because I live between Russia and Calgary,
Yeah.
50-50.
Yeah.
So, you know, what good are you unless you learn something? And you learn the truth. And it's the difference really between being awake and asleep. If you watch the news here, you are asleep. And if you actually believe it, you're asleep. And 80% is being left out, and you don't ever get to see it unless you really go looking for it, and it's really hard to find. But when you find it, you know, things aren't what they seem.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, so Canada's funding this garbage and all the MPs. First of all, I stand with Ukrainians. I don't stand with Zelensky. I 100% support Ukrainians, but they're being used as cannon fodder, along with Russians, cannon fodder by these assholes who are really, you know, the West. And
the deep state West, I call it.
The worst of the worst,
yeah.
not Americans. These idiots, the deep state
the
flunkies
neocons,
and the
neoliberals,
and the military complex.
Yeah.
The military complex will get at least $3 trillion in orders out of this because they're depleting all the stocks over there. All the junk is going into Ukraine. Then what happens is everyone's got to replenish, and everyone also gets scared through this thing. So the ones that were staying behind and weren't doing 2% of their GDP, now they're up to 2.5% of GDP. Germany alone, that's $680 billion extra dollars going into the military. Way to go. I mean, they're just writing out purchase orders over there, left, right, and center. So this is the most profitable activity in history. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, you know, it really pisses me off because I got refugees as neighbors in Calgary. You know, we get along great. I got refugees. I've got Ukrainians here today. We get along perfectly because we know the truth. We don't know lies. We know the truth. And it just makes me feel sorry for Canadians because they don't have access to the truth. And they're led by a guy, and this is really a mass psychosis formation event where everyone's going, yeah, we're behind Ukraine. Oh, I'm behind the people, but I'm not behind Zelensky. You'll find out, because what happens over time is the truth eventually comes out. It unravels.
Yeah.
You'll find you're on the wrong side of history, but you're going to find out that these people like Zelensky, who's already got a $20 million mansion in Miami, they're not at risk. They'll get out just before the whole thing blows up, and they'll be off somewhere with $1 billion.
He's already been given a UK passport.
Well, and his boss, the oligarch, who's a billionaire, you know, he was so toxic. He was so toxic. They wouldn't let him in the States. Now they're letting him in. Yeah,
and Sergey makes a good point. And they're still fighting these neo-Nazis.
Well,
they're still fighting them.
But you know, if you want to do the research, you'll find out that Canada stopped funding them years ago. And why did they say the fund them? Because they're Nazis. So this is Canada admitting that these guys are not. Same with the States. In one of their spending bills, they say we're not funding these guys in Ukraine. They're Nazis. All of a sudden, they became non-Nazis.
Yeah.
Well, that was magical.
And the media started defending them and justifying them.
Yeah, they became non-Nazis.
Yeah, it's a whitewash, the whole thing.
Complete whitewash. But the problem is the truth is buried in a book this thick. It's buried in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's there. People have found it.
Yeah, no, you made a good point. You want to go there and learn? Go to the source.
Absolutely.
Go to the
source.
people, talk to the
Crimea,
people.
Go to Russia.
Yeah.
Go to Ukraine. Go to East and West Ukraine. You'll find out everything. Like one of the girls here, the nice, attractive blonde, I've talked to her mother. She's from Lugansk.
Yeah.
She's telling me about the shelling. I talked to her 6 years ago about the shelling. It's daily. They don't care. They send the shells in.
Yeah.
They're Canadian and U.S. paid for shells. These neo-Nazis, the Azov Battalion, and they're not the only ones.
Yeah.
There's 5 of them.
Yeah.
And they're also embedded in the police. They're embedded everywhere. I've seen pictures of these guys storming the police force and beating up the police because they weren't doing, you know, enough
Yeah.
anti-Russian
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
these guys just want to be left alone and just protect the citizens there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, you got to go look for the truth. The
Yeah.
bullshit
Excellent stuff.
it'll come and find you. It's easy to get bullshit, and it's hard to get the truth.
Yeah, excellent stuff there.
Thank you.
Put it there. Let's we'll do a follow up, man. You got so much insight. We
I've
appreciate.
studied it.
Yeah.
I've spent thousands of hours studying it, because about the dumbest thing you can be is a guy that knows nothing, you know, and is a one-sided propagandized CNN, MSNBC,
Yeah.
CBC
Yeah.
version of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
You can't get dumber by being that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be dumb.
Excellent stuff. Okay, we'll share more later on.